Before you build the dashboard, you need something to visualize. That is data. Welcome back, data nerds. In this session, we are going to explore how to load the data in Power BI. We are going to talk about the multiple data sources that Power BI supports when it comes to importing data from. Then we'll also talk about what are the multiple ways of getting data into Power BI. So let's load some data in that blank report, shall we? So let's first see where do we get the option of loading data into Power BI. Under this home button, you see a bunch of options, which I already talked about in my interface tour session, that these buttons are related to loading the data in Power BI. So as the first option suggests, it says get data. If I click on a little drop down here, it shows me a list of data sources which Power BI supports. The first and foremost is Excel Workbook, one of the most famous tool in market. Then we have something called Power BI semantic models. We have a lot of options from which we can import the data. I will talk about the sources which actually you are going to use. So we have Excel Workbook, then we have something called SQL Server, we have text and CSV, then we have web. If you have a public website and you want to bring data from there, you are going to use this option. If I click on more, what happens? Okay, so this gives me a long list of data sources from which I can import the data. But the question is, do we actually use all these data sources on a daily basis? We don't. There are only 5 or 6 data sources which we generally use. And that too, in your initial phase, you are going to use 3 or 4 data sources, not more than that. So I would not like to concentrate on all of these options because that's simply a waste of time. We'll concentrate on the most famous sources from where we actually take the data. Okay, so first, as I talked about Excel Workbook, then we have text or CSV, then we have, you have PDF, you can take the data from PDF as well, then you have all the database from where you can upload the data. So this is that. Then you have categories. So you see, we have some categories. So these categories are nothing but whatever list that you are seeing here, a long list that you have, the same lists have been categorized on the basis of their format. So if you click on file, you'll see all the files available under this. So Excel Workbook, text, CSV, XML, and so and so. If you click on database, whatever databases, the sources related to database have been categorized here. Okay, if you click on Microsoft Fabric, if you're not aware what is Microsoft Fabric, no need to panic because this is also one of the very powerful Microsoft tool. So we'll understand about this in our next session. For now, you just know that this is also one of the places where data gets stored and we have these many options to import data from. Then we have Power Platform, then we have Azure, then we have online services. So the bottom line is all these options have been classified in this category. Okay, fine. So for now, I'm going to cancel it. So we have explored this option. We have already explored this option as well under get data. So this is nothing but the same option. Then we have this One Lake Data Hub. If you click on this drop down, you can see what are the sources data hub available from where you can import the data. Then we have this SQL Server. We already discussed that if your company has a very large database which gets stored in SQL Server, then you are going to use this button to bring the data in your Power BI desktop. Then we have something called Enter Data. What happens when you click here? Let's click and see. When you click on Enter Data, a different tab opens. Suppose you have a very small database which you want to analyze quickly and you want to just copy the data and paste here. This option is for that. So suppose I have this Excel data. I just want to quickly paste few rows and few columns in my Power BI. All I have to copy, I just copied the data and now I'm going to click here and paste. That's it. So the data got pasted exactly the way we wanted. Plus we have something here. It says the first row of data that you pasted has been promoted to column headers. So Power BI automatically puts your first row as the column header. Now you have your data pasted here. Now you have 2 options, load and edit and cancel. So let's load the data and see what happens. Yes, so the data is loaded. So as I told you in my last session, whatever data you import in Power BI gets stored here. So you see table and whatever columns we pasted, you can see those columns here. That was a simple way of bringing data into Power BI. I also want to show you a few other ways of bringing data. So that was one way of entering data into Power BI just by copy pasting the data. Okay. So then comes Dataverse. Dataverse is nothing but a Microsoft's cloud-based platform where you can think of it as a storage space where all these business apps like Power Automate, Power Apps, or maybe Microsoft Business 365, these business apps store their data there in the Dataverse, and they can also access from Dataverse securely. So it's just Microsoft, one of the Microsoft's cloud-based data platform. Okay, we'll not talk about this in detail right now. Then comes recent sources. So this shows you what are the recent sources you have imported your data from. That's it, nothing else. So before I load any Excel workbook in my Power BI, I want to talk about the 3 methods that we have to load the data in Power BI. So first method is import, then we have DirectQuery, and then we have live connection. I will not talk about this in detail in this video because I want to create a separate session for that. Why? Because it becomes very important concept wise. You should very well know that how to load which data should be loaded in what way, and what are the different methods of loading the data. It becomes very important concept wise, as well as it becomes a very important interview question as well. So your interviewer will expect you to explain these methods in a very detailed manner and have a clear concept. He will expect you to understand all these 3 methods and when to use these methods as well. So that's why I want to dedicate a separate session for that. In this session, I'm just going to give you a brief introduction. So first method, which is import. So this is used when your data set is small, first of all, because you are going to bring the whole data in your Power BI desktop. You can only use this way when your data set is not very big. Okay, then the second way is DirectQuery. This way is used when your data set is way too large and it's not possible to bring the whole data in Power BI, because then it will impact the efficiency of Power BI. It will make your Power BI lag. It will make your dashboard lag. So you cannot actually work with that much of load on your Power BI. So in that case, you use DirectQuery. So what do you do here? Your data is available in a database, like so take an example of SQL Server database. Your data set is available there. All you're going to do is just set a connection between Power BI desktop and that database. And with the help of that connection, you are going to access that data. You can calculate columns, you can calculate measures, but the data will not be stored in your Power BI. That is the difference here. Okay, then comes the third method, which is live connection. This is somewhat similar to the DirectQuery, but not exactly. This is a method where you actually access, again, you do not bring the whole data in Power BI in this method as well. Like import, you create a connection between your Power BI and a data analysis model, already built-in model. And in this method, you do not get much flexibility to deal with data, to manipulate data, the way you get in DirectQuery. So these are the 3 methods that we have to load the data in our Power BI. So we'll talk about it in detail in our next session. So for now, let's just export the Excel workbook in our Power BI. Okay. So I'll just click on this get data. I will click on Excel workbook. This tab will open. This will help me access the Excel workbook. So I'm just going to select the data and click on open. Navigator tab opens something like this. You can see the Excel workbook name here, which is large data. You can see number of sheets available, the number of tabs available inside that Excel workbook. So for now, I have just one sheet. That's why it's showing sheet 1. So I'm just going to check this box. You can preview the data. You can see all the columns that you have. If you want to maximize, you can do that. So you can see all the columns that we have, right? Now we have 2 options, load data and transform data. If you remember, in my last session, I talked about this option, transform data. So this option is nothing but the same, transform data. This option is same as this one. Okay, both are same. Now you will click on transform data if you want to clean your data. If you want to cleaning, maybe you want to remove some duplicate columns, if you want to remove null data, if you actually want to rename the columns, if you want to change the format of few columns, if you want to change the data type of few columns, if you see that your date key is not very well arranged, and if you want to create a calendar table and multiple calculations, if you want to do, you can click on transform data. But my current focus is not transformation, but it is loading the data. So I'm not going to click on this. I'm just going to load the data. I just clicked on load. It will take few seconds and then you can see the sheets are loading. Okay, so now as I already told you that whenever we load a data in Power BI, it gets stored in the data pane. If you remember, this was the data that you copy pasted using enter data. This was also stored here. Now on the top of that, you can see we have sheet 1. So now you can see the data which we just now imported from the Excel. If you click on this drop down, you can see all the columns that data had. Okay, but this is not very easy to understand that what I want to see the data actually in tabular form. How to see that? We will go to this table view, right? We talked about all these buttons in our interface tool. So I again request you to go back and watch. So when you click on table view, you can see the data exactly you were able to see in Excel. So now this data is actually more understandable and you can see, okay, this is the columns, these are the rows, right? So you can just come here and perform any kind of calculation you want, okay? This is how you import the data from your sources. This was one of the ways of importing the data. Yes, let's recap what we talked about today. We talked about multiple data sources that Power BI supports. We saw a complete list of the data sources that Power BI has, and we also saw the categories which Power BI has created. Then we saw the methods through which we can load the data in Power BI. We also saw copy pasting data. If you have small data and you can just want to copy paste, you have this enter data option and you can just copy paste from there. At last, we imported an Excel in our Power BI. So I want you to go back, open your Power BI desktop, and whatever Excel workbook you have loaded in your computer, just try to import it in Power BI. So follow these steps and try to import them in your Power BI. If you do not have any data in your laptop, so you can just download it from multiple websites that we have. We have a very famous Kaggle dataset, so you can just download it from there. And you have to, when you download it from there, you have to check that whether that data is being downloaded in Excel workbook or CSV. So in whatever format it has been downloaded, you are in Power BI, you're just going to select the right format. And then you can just click on open and the data will be loaded. So practice this, because again, watching video will not do. You have to practice on your own. In next session, we are going to understand the 3 different methods we can load the data in Power BI. Till then, study hard and bye-bye.